Thank you for joining us for another episode in this series of studies of the book of the Revelation of John. In this episode, which is part 10, we will examine the third Babylon and the scarlet beast. We will use our 26 core imagery keywords, as fully explained in part 1. Please watch part 1, if you have not already done so. The first imagery keyword for this slide is person, which symbolizes a nation, a state or a country. The second keyword is earth, which symbolizes Africa. We will now read Revelation 18 from verse 1 to verse 8. And after these things I saw another angel come down from heaven, having great power, and the earth was lightened with his glory. The earth symbolizes Africa, which means that there will be joy in Africa for many countries, who were plagued by the wars that were brought on by Babylon. And he cried mightily with a strong voice, saying, Babylon the great is fallen, and is become the habitation of devils, and the hold of every foul spirit, and a cage of every unclean and hateful bird. For all nations have drunk of the wine of the wrath of her fornication, and the kings of the earth have committed fornication with her, and the merchants of the earth are waxed rich through the abundance of her delicacies. Drunkenness symbolizes excessive greed, which means that many nations turned a blind eye to Babylon's abominations, when they dealt with Babylon. These abominations are the senseless wars and injustices caused by Babylon in the world. The nations allowed their own greed to overcome them, which caused Babylon to be even more empowered to perform even worse abominations. The kings committed fornication with Babylon, meaning politicians from other countries made corrupt deals to enrich and empower themselves. Merchants from all over the world became fabulously rich, because of trade with Babylon, possibly with the trade of technology and luxury items. And I heard another voice from heaven, saying, Come out of her, my people, that ye be not partakers of her sins, and that ye receive not of her plagues. Per our imagery keywords, a person symbolizes a state or country. Verse 4 is most likely a call to states or countries allied with Babylon, to secede from the Union. Those who remain part of the Union will be violently taken down with the Union when God will destroy Babylon. Only those who leave the Union may be able to survive. For her sins have reached unto heaven, and God hath remembered her iniquities. Reward her even as she rewarded you, and double unto her double according to her works, in the cup which she hath filled fill to her double. We know from verses 5 and 6, that Babylon has made war, or created wars against many others, for which she will be rewarded with double the punishment she caused to others. In seceding from the Union, the evil Union can be weakened, and many of their criminals can be brought to justice by the states, or countries who secede. How much she hath glorified herself, and lived deliciously, so much torment and sorrow give her, for she saith in her heart, I sit a queen, and am no widow, and shall see no sorrow. Babylon has set herself above other nations, believing that her values are superior. The lifestyle of her citizens was on a higher level than that of most other nations. She looks down on other nations and countries, and does not think that she can be destroyed, because she is the most powerful country on earth. Therefore shall her plagues come in one day, death, and mourning, and famine, and she shall be utterly burned with fire, for strong is the Lord God who judgeth her. Because she was so powerful and because of her miscarriage of justice in her own country as well as over the entire world, her demise will be especially violent and unexpected. This is because it is God's will that she be severely punished. The first imagery keyword for this slide is person, which symbolizes a country. The second keyword is ships, which symbolizes economies. We will now read Revelation 18, from verse 9 to verse 16. And the kings of the earth, who have committed fornication and lived deliciously with her, shall bewail her, and lament for her, when they shall see the smoke of her burning, standing afar off for the fear of her torment, saying, Alas, alas, that great city Babylon, that mighty city! For in 1 hour is thy judgment come. The governments of countries, symbolized by kings, who are allied with Babylon, will be shocked when Babylon is destroyed. She was their example of morality, which they have strived for. They will be shocked at how utterly she is destroyed. With special criminally corrupt deals, many corrupt politicians have enriched themselves with money from Babylon. Without money from Babylon and her currency that suddenly becomes worthless, the riches of many corrupt people across the world will become instantly worthless. They will be more concerned about the loss of their own riches than the suffering of people in the empire of Babylon. And the merchants of the earth shall weep and mourn over her, for no man buyeth their merchandise any more. These merchants are only concerned with their own profits, and not with the well-being of the people of Babylon who will now be suffering. The merchandise of gold, and silver, and precious stones, and of pearls, and fine linen, and purple, and silk, and scarlet, and all thyine wood, and all manner vessels of ivory, and all manner vessels of most precious wood, and of brass, and iron, and marble, and cinnamon, and odors, and ointments, and frankincense, and wine, and oil, and fine flour, and wheat, and beasts, and sheep, and horses, and chariots, and slaves, and souls of men. We can also see that Babylon was even involved in the slave trade for monetary profit. Because a person symbolizes a country, we can also derive that Babylon trades with the soul of countries, having governments replaced with more Babylon-friendly governments. This will be mostly through war and the sponsoring of rebellion, corruption and violence in those countries. And the fruits that thy soul lusted after are departed from thee, and all things which were dainty and goodly are departed from thee, and thou shalt find them no more at all. We will speculate those goodly and dainty things may be technology items, for example electronic devices like televisions, gaming devices, cell phones, computers, and so on. From verse 12 to verse 14, we can derive that Babylon bought and used an incredible amount of luxury items. The merchants of these things, which were made rich by her, shall stand afar off for the fear of her torment, weeping and wailing, and saying, Alas, alas, that great city, that was clothed in fine linen, and purple, and scarlet, and decked with gold, and precious stones, and pearls. This means again, that Babylon is a very rich country, who imports many luxury items from other countries. Being clothed in fine linen and purple and scarlet, decked with gold, precious stones and pearls symbolizes fabulous riches. We see that the merchants are crying, once again, not because of compassion for the people of Babylon who are suffering terribly, but for the fact that nobody will buy their merchandise. The first imagery keyword for this slide is an hour, which symbolizes 15 days. The second keyword is ships, which symbolizes the economies of countries. We will now read Revelation 18, from verse 17 to verse 24. For in 1 hour so great riches is come to naught. And every shipmaster, and all the company in ships, and sailors, and as many as trade by sea, stood afar off. This also refers back to Revelation 17 verse 12 and 18 verse 10. The 10 horns or 10 countries will receive power for 1 hour with the beast, and Babylon's judgment will come in 1 hour. Per our imagery keywords, an hour symbolizes 15 days. This means that Babylon will be destroyed in 15 days, which will most probably the duration of the last World War. The destruction of Babylon will also cause many other economies, symbolized by ships, to be instantly ruined. And cried when they saw the smoke of her burning, saying, What city is like unto this great city? And they cast dust on their heads, and cried, weeping and wailing, saying, Alas, alas that great city, wherein were made rich all that had ships in the sea by reason of her costliness. For in 1 hour is she made desolate. Nobody would go near Babylon, because she's burning. It most probably means that there will be nuclear fallout involved in the destruction of Babylon, which would prevent anybody going near this country. The ships in the sea may symbolize the economies of countries, whose currencies were linked to Babylon's currency. With Babylon's currency becoming worthless, their own currencies will also become worthless, and destroy their economies. The shipmasters and sailors, possibly symbolizing central bankers and economists, are crying, because their wealth just evaporated before their eyes. They are obviously not crying because of compassion for the people of Babylon, who are dying and suffering. The merchants cry, because they know that business will never be as usual again. We can derive that the destruction of Babylon will have a negative impact on almost every economy across the entire world. Rejoice over her, thou heaven, and ye holy apostles and prophets, for God hath avenged you on her. And a mighty angel took up a stone like a great millstone, and cast it into the sea, saying, Thus with violence shall that great city Babylon be thrown down, and shall be found no more at all. This means that everybody in heaven are rejoicing when the evil of Babylon comes to an end, and the great millstone that is casted into the sea symbolizes the end of Babylon forever. The earthly kingdom of this Babylon will simply never be restored. And the voice of harpers, and musicians, and of pipers, and trumpeters, shall be heard no more at all in thee, and no craftsman, of whatsoever craft he be, shall be found any more in thee, and the sound of a millstone shall be heard no more at all in thee. This means that Babylon produced massive amounts of music, which will never be played in Babylon ever again. It further means that Babylon will become completely desolate. And the light of a candle shall shine no more at all in thee, and the voice of the bridegroom and of the bride shall be heard no more at all in thee, for thy merchants were the great men of the earth, for by thy sorceries were all nations deceived. The sorceries that deceived nations may refer to news agencies and entertainment companies, who relentlessly propagated immorality, and exported filth like homosexuality and abortion over the entire world. And in her was found the blood of prophets, and of saints, and of all that were slain upon the earth. We can derive that Babylon is responsible for the death of many faithful Christians all over the world, as we have already discussed in chapter 17 verse 6. We will now use the attributes of Babylon, to determine which country may be the Babylon of chapters 16 to 18. We have compiled a small list of countries, who are being suspected of actually being Babylon. We will examine the following countries. The countries of Great Britain or England, Germany, the United States of America, the People's Republic of China, Russia, Iran, the European Union, We will also examine the Vatican or Roman Catholic Church, simply because there are groups of people who believe that the Roman Catholic Church is Babylon of chapters 16 through 20. We will now examine each attribute of Babylon. The first attribute is that Babylon is in control of many countries across the entire world. This is more true for England, Germany, the USA, and the European Union than for other countries. The second attribute of Babylon is that she hides corruption behind charity and enriches herself with political dealings all over the world. The country that stands out above all other is the USA. Many countries will ask financial help from the USA, which will then be brokered by a politician, with kickbacks for all parties involved. This may be true for some other countries too, but the USA has always been the leading country in this kind of corruption, and it seems to be getting worse. The third attribute of Babylon is that it is outside of Europe and the Middle East. This is true for the USA, China, and Russia. The fourth attribute of Babylon is that it is in control of the scarlet beast. We will make our conclusion on what the scarlet beast is later, but it seems that the USA is able to manipulate the rest of the world at will, with her American dollars. Other countries may have some influence, but again, the USA controls the world at a scale that is unparalleled. The Vatican may also be in charge of the scarlet beast, because the Jesuit seems to have control of all secret organizations. The fifth attribute of Babylon is that it has a system of morality or values that it constantly reminds the rest of the world to justify any direction the USA wants to go. For example, if a negotiation with another country does not go into the way the USA wants it to go, then her politicians will break it off and announce that she does not deal with terrorists, or racists, or whatever they want to accuse the other country of. On the other hand, the Pope may make some political statements in regards to the United States on subjects, like for example open borders or abortion, to influence voters to vote for a Vatican-controlled candidate. The sixth attribute of Babylon is that it is fabulously rich, and it relentlessly flaunts its riches in the face of other countries. The USA stands out in this regard, with their entertainment industry that creates propagandistic television shows that glorifies money above all. It produces shows like Dallas, Dynasty, and recent shows like Keeping Up with the Kardashians, which is all about people with lots of money. So-called sitcoms always show average people in big houses, with lots of earthly possessions. The United States is all capitalism, which simply means it is all about money. The USA even has billionaires, who are richer than many countries that exist today. The seventh attribute of Babylon is that she covers her immorality up with her values. The USA stands out above all other nations in this regard. She perpetually victimizes herself in the eyes of her own citizens, to go to wars, which all have one goal in mind. This goal is always for a certain group of people, to enrich themselves from taxpayers' money. She also perpetually propagates immoral rites to the rest of the world. Some other countries may also do the same thing, but the USA stands out above all others in this regard. The eighth attribute of Babylon is that she is founded on principles of secret societies. This is true for all countries. However, the cover-up of secret deals of corruption seems to be more prevalent in the United States. The ninth attribute of Babylon is that Babylon is presided over by the same demonic forces of the original Babylon. The business model of the original Babylon was to collect all the best skilled people from all over the known world, and to relocate them to Babylon. They sometimes also forcefully abducted skilled people, by using military force. The only country today that is largely built on immigration, is the United States of America. The United States of America also has a history of abducting highly skilled people, and relocating them to the USA. In Operation Paperclip after the Second World War, the best scientists from Germany were forcefully relocated to the USA. Those scientists were used to start the USA space program. The business model of the United States is identical to that of ancient Babylon, and we can therefore derive that the United States of America is presided over by the same demonic forces as ancient Babylon. The 10th attribute of Babylon is that she is the greatest country on earth. This is true of the United States, and this is proven by the fact that the United States attracts more immigrants than any other country. The 11th attribute of Babylon is that she is the creator of immoral groups and organizations. The United States exported her abominations all over the world for decades and decades. She has organizations that relentlessly defends and normalizes immoral filth like homosexuality and abortion, and she perpetually shoves it down the throats of other nations. The 12th attribute of Babylon is that she is responsible for the death of many Christian believers. This is true of all listed countries. Great Britain went on many campaigns of murder for the glory of their king or queen, where they have deliberately raped and murdered Christian women and little children. Germany has a history of murdering Jews and Christians in the Second World War. The perpetual wars of the USA are both directly and indirectly responsible for the death of many Christians. China imprisons Christians and harvests their organs. Russia has a history of perfecting torturous methods on Christians. Iran is known to hate and murder Christians. The EU is in support of the USA of its endless wars, thus sharing in the responsibility of the murdering of Christians. The Vatican, or the Roman Catholic Church, is known to have been behind wars on Protestants, killing many Christians, symbolized by saints and prophets. This is true of all listed countries. The open trade between all listed countries simply means that each country condones each other's behavior, and as a result all are guilty. However, the USA is the greatest architect of destruction, possibly causing the death of more Christians than any other country. The 13th attribute of Babylon is that it is a union of states or nations. England, or the United Kingdom, the United States and the European Union are all unions. The 14th attribute is that Babylon is in control of Africa. The United States controls the entire Africa militarily through AFRICOM, except for Egypt, that is in the area of responsibility of United States Central Command. The 15th attribute of Babylon is that many merchants across the world became incredibly rich by trading with Babylon. This is true for the countries of England, Germany, the USA, China, and the EU. The 16th attribute of Babylon is that Babylon looks down on other nations. This is true for the United States, because of her value system, and China, for her championship of communism. The EU looks down on other countries, because they claim that they have solved problems in a superior way, and that other countries should solve those perceived problems in the same way. The 17th attribute of Babylon is that Babylon trades with slaves and the souls of men. All listed countries have a history of trading with slaves. Today, we have rumors that top elites in the United States are involved in sex slavery. The souls of men symbolizes the governments of countries which were destroyed by the USA and replaced with USA-friendly governments. A recent example is the wars on Iraq and Afghanistan, in which USA-friendly governments were purposely installed. The 18th attribute of Babylon is that she buys and uses an incredible amount of luxury items, which also highlights that Babylon is a very rich country. The United States is by far the greatest consumer market over the entire world. She outspends the second greatest consumer market, which is the EU, by more than double. The 19th attribute of Babylon is that her destruction will have a major negative impact on the rest of the world. Even the countries who attack and destroy Babylon will be negatively affected. This will be true about both the USA and the EU. The 20th attribute of Babylon is that she creates a massive amount of music. This is true of all countries. The 21st attribute of Babylon is that she promotes immoral filth like homosexuality and abortion across the entire world. This is especially true of the United States, but it is also true of the European Union. Since all the attributes were filled in, we can thus derive that only the United States of America fulfills all the requirements of Babylon in chapters 17 to 19, and that this part of the prophecy most likely is against the United States of America. The first imagery keyword for this slide is beast, which symbolizes an empire or civilization. The second keyword is earth, which symbolizes Africa. The third keyword is bottomless pit, which symbolizes the oblivion for an empire or civilization. We will now attempt to identify the scarlet beast. We will start by reading Revelation 17 verse 8. The beast that thou sawest was, and is not, and shall ascend out of the bottomless pit, and go into perdition, and they that dwell on the earth shall wonder, whose names were not written in the book of life from the foundation of the world, when they behold the beast that was, and is not, and yet is. The first characteristic of the beast is that it was. This means that in the earthly realm, it existed in the past. The second characteristic of the beast is that it is not, which means it does not exist in the earthly realm anymore. This was the Roman Catholic Empire. It existed in the past in the earthly realm, but today the Roman Catholic Church is not an empire anymore. The empire is now in oblivion, which is symbolized by it being in the bottomless pit. The third characteristic of the beast is that it will ascend from the bottomless pit. This means that these demonic forces in the spiritual realm are moving on to create a new empire and civilization in the earthly realm, symbolized by its ascending from the bottomless pit, and these demonic forces will be in control of the new empire or civilization in the earthly realm. The fourth characteristic of the beast is that it will go into perdition. This means that eventually, any empire or any civilization will be destroyed in both the earthly as well as in the spiritual realm. The fifth characteristic of the beast is that people from earth, which symbolizes Africa, will wonder when they see the beast. This means that countries from Africa will be impressed when they see the luxuries and benefits of the beast, and that they will want to have part of the beast. The sixth characteristic of the beast is that it yet is. This means that the demonic forces of the beast are still alive and well, and that they created the United States of America and Western civilization in the earthly realm. The empire and civilization now have different names and appearances, and it may be difficult to identify it with the previous beast, yet the United States of America and Western civilization are under the control of the same old demonic forces than the previous empire, which was the Roman Catholic Empire. We will now read Revelation 17 verses 9 to 11. And here is the mind which hath wisdom. The 7 heads are 7 mountains, on which the woman sitteth. And there are 7 kings, 5 are fallen, and 1 is, and the other is not yet come, and when he cometh, he must continue a short space. And the beast that was, and is not, even he is the 8th, and is of the 7, and goeth into perdition. We have already identified the 7 heads of the beast in Part 9. The 5 kings that are fallen, are Babylon, Medo-Persia, Greece, Rome and the Roman Catholic Empire. The 1 king that is the Western civilization. The 1 king that is not yet and will come to continue for a short space, is the anticipated one world government. The 7 mountains of the 7 kings, which are the 7 heads of the beast, are immigration, multi-state government systems, democracy, Roman law, establishment Christian churches, computer technology and Satan, who will be worshipped as Lucifer in a one-world government. These 7 heads are also the 7 mountains, on which the United States is built. The demonic forces of 5 kingdoms, that were, and are not, yet are all still controlling civilization today. From all of this, we derive that the scarlet beast is the combination of the United States of America and Western civilization, which is controlled by the United States. Babylon, who is the United States of America, is the main leader of all countries over the world. We will now verify the 11 attributes of the United States and Western civilization, to determine if we can find any mistake in our process of identifying the beast. The scarlet beast originated from Europe and the Middle East. It is true that the United States of America and Western civilization originated in the Middle East and Europe. It is also true that many nations in the Western civilization, including Germany and the United States of America, are pretending that they are Christian nations, which is a lie. Pretending that anything is Christian when it's not true, are names of blasphemy. False teachings in the name of Jesus are all counted as a name of blasphemy. It is true that the United States and Western civilization are built on the foundation of fallen empires and civilizations. The United States and Western civilization will both be destroyed. God is almighty, and He can destroy both the United States and Western civilization, when it is time. It is also true that other countries, especially countries from Africa, who do not have a civilization, or countries of different civilizations, desire to have the same things of the United States and Western civilization. Many of those things are riches, prosperity and technology devices like cell phones and computers. The United States and Western civilization are built upon the principles of previous civilizations. The 6th head of the scarlet beast that exists today is actually the Western civilization. We expect the final head to be the so-called one world government. It is true that we know on which 5 empires or civilizations the beast was built on, and as such we can identify the beast as the United States and Western civilization. It is true that the 6th head of the beast is Western civilization, who is led by the United States, who is Babylon the whore. It is also true that there are even more than 10 countries in the Western civilization who are extremely influential. We know today that many Europeans and Middle Easterners hate the United States. If an American travels to Europe, he will more often than not experience a cold reception from Europeans. There are many articles in many magazines that can be found, which try to describe why Europeans hate America so much. We can also see very extreme hatred in many European and Middle Eastern immigrants, who are very vocal about their violent hatred of the United States. In the end, it is difficult not to believe that with that much hatred, that peace will last forever. It is certain that there are at least 10 countries who hate the United States sufficiently to go to war against the United States, symbolized by the 10 horns who hate the whore. The United States and Western civilization are already making war against Jesus, and they are targeting churches, pastors and other believers, by persecutorial arrests, discrimination and attempted control of their church services and lives. Christians are belittled and accused of being delusional, and authorities in general deny that they are making war on Christians, while they are relentlessly trying to deceive Christians into accepting the mark of the beast. We will now discuss the mark of the scarlet beast. In Ezekiel 9 verse 4-6, we read, "And the Lord said unto him, Go through the midst of the city, through the midst of Jerusalem, and set a mark upon the foreheads of the men that sigh and that cry for all the abominations that be done in the midst thereof. And to the others he said in mine hearing, Go ye after him through the city, and smite, let not your eye spare, neither have ye pity. Slay utterly old and young, both maids, and little children, and women, but come not near any man upon whom is the mark, and begin at my sanctuary." Then they began at the ancient men which were before the house. In this passage, we learn that those who sigh and cry, because of abominations committed in their land, will be marked with the mark of God, and be spared. Those who look the other way, or think that to each his own, are guilty and has to die. A true believer in Jesus can never condone any abomination before God, and we can derive that the mark of the beast will be even the slightest acceptance of any or all of the major abominations before God. Accepting the mark of the beast is much easier than most people believed it to be. We have identified the beast as the combination of the United States and Western civilization. Once we know who the beast is, we can easily find its abominations before God, that it relentlessly propagates as values. We will now list the 4 major abominations associated to the United States and Western civilization. The first abomination is sexual immorality. Sex before or outside marriage. The second abomination is homosexuality. Men with men, or women with women. The third abomination is human sacrifice to Satan. Human sacrifice comes in 2 major deceptions. The first deception of human sacrifice is propagated, that it is a woman's right to abort a child. It is all a deception to get women to sacrifice their unborn children to Satan. The second deception of human sacrifice to Satan is euthanasia, or so-called mercy killing, which is propagated as the right to dignity. In some countries in Europe, young people can now get rid of their parents by simply taking them to the hospital, to be euthanized like animals. The fourth abomination before God is perverting a child. In Luke 17 verses 1 and 2, we read, "Then said he unto the disciples, It is impossible but that offenses will come, but woe unto him, through whom they come. It were better for him that a millstone were hanged about his neck, and he cast into the sea, than that he should offend one of these little ones." It is extraordinary that Jesus recommends suicide before a person commits pedophilia. It puts it into perspective how utterly abominable pedophilia is before God. Pedophilia is already legalized in California. Apparently in Scotland, it will be soon, that a child of 4 years can request a sex change without the consent of his or her parents. Is it possible that school teachers may groom a child to have a sex change, just because his or her parents are Christians? The first imagery keyword for this slide is head, which symbolizes government. The second keyword is right hand, which symbolizes the judiciary system. We will now conclude on what a person has to do to accept the mark of the beast. We will look at accepting the mark in the forehead. Per our imagery keywords, a head is a government. We will derive that the mark in the forehead will be the major values that the government advertises. Accepting the mark of the beast in the forehead means that a person supports these values, if those are abominations before God. Under democracy, it becomes very easy to accept the mark in the forehead. The first thing one can do to accept the mark of the beast in the forehead is to vote for a politician that is biased, if even slightly, towards any of the listed abominations before God. The second thing one can do to accept the mark of the beast in the forehead is to simply vote along party lines or out of principle for a political party that has even the slightest bias toward any of these abominations before God. The third thing one can do to accept the mark of the beast in the forehead is to condone or ignore any of the listed abominations, even if one does not take part in any of it. We will look at how one can accept the mark of the beast in the right hand. Per our imagery keywords, the right hand symbolizes the judiciary system. The first thing one can do to accept the mark of the beast in the right hand is to support any of the listed abominations to be written into law. The second thing one can do to accept the mark of the beast in the right hand is to accept, support, obey or execute any laws that enforce or support abominations before God. We will now look at how one can accept the number 666, which is the number of the beast. In 2 Chronicles 9 verses 13 and 14, we read, "Now the weight of gold that came to Solomon in 1 year was 666 talents of gold, beside that which chapmen and merchants brought. And all the kings of Arabia and governors of the country brought gold and silver to Solomon." From these 2 verses, we learn that Solomon had a salary of at least 666 talents of gold per year, which is approximately 1.3 billion American dollars. The reign of Solomon is synonymous with incredible riches, prosperity and peace, and as such the number 666 can also be associated with incredible riches, prosperity and peace. We can also derive that another thing one can do is to pursue prosperity and riches above one's love for Jesus, which means that one has accepted the number of the beast, which is 666. One more thing one can do to accept the number of the beast is to support any agreement with the country of the beast, for the sake of prosperity for one's own country. One can also support any agreement with the country of the beast, for the sake of peace for one's own country, to accept the number of the beast. We will now summarize what we have learned about the demonic forces in the spiritual realm. The first event was the fall of Babylon in chapter 14, which we have identified as the disbandment of the Jesuit organization in 1773. We have already examined this in part 6. We are not sure how it happened, but since the Jesuits were disbanded by a pope of the Roman Catholic Empire, it is very possible that it was a demonic action in the spiritual realm, because the other forces hated the forces of Babylon. It also is possible that there was a disagreement between Babylon's demonic forces and the other forces under the beast, and that they decided to leave to start a new empire elsewhere. It may also be possible that Satan has simply decided to send the Babylon forces to a different continent, to start a new empire there. Babylon was still part of the Roman Catholic Empire in Europe. When it fell in 1773, the demonic forces of Babylon then relocated to America. Those demonic forces appear to have been extremely productive, because they founded the United States of America only 3 years later, in the year of 1776. The demonic forces as of today are the following. At the highest level, we have Satan. It appears that Satan directly controls the false prophet, or Islam. Satan also directly controls the beast, which was created by merging the demonic forces of Babylon, Persia, Greece and Rome into one force. Babylon was rejected by the other forces, but it was able to restore itself and take control of all the other demonic forces once again. Christianity, symbolized by the white horse, is also under control of the beast. Banking systems, symbolized by the red horse, are under control of the beast. All secret societies, symbolized by the black horse, are also under control of the beast. The next force under control of the beast is science and technology, symbolized by the pale horse. Communism and communistic governments are also under control of the beast. Refugees streaming from uncivilized countries into civilized countries are also under control of the beast. All of our Christian churches, which includes the Roman Catholic Church as well as all other denominations, are all under control of the beast. It is obvious that all other religions are also under control of the beast. We will now summarize at a high level which demonic forces are in control of which countries all over the world. Satan is at the highest level in control of the entire world. The first force that Satan directly controls is the force of the false prophet. The forces of the false prophet are in control of Islamic countries and the Islamic religion. The next demonic force that Satan directly controls is the force of the beast. The beast is made up of 4 different forces, which are Babylon, who is in control, and the forces of Persia, Greece, and Rome. The beast is directly in control of the demonic forces of Abaddon. Abaddon is in control of non-civilized countries. Babylon is also directly in control of the United States of America. The beast is further also in control of all other civilized countries all over the world. The fall of the third Babylon means that the greatest nation on earth will be destroyed forever. This concludes part 10 of this series of Revelation, chapter 18, in which we explored the possibilities of who, or what may be the third Babylon and the 6th head of the scarlet beast, and what is the scarlet beast. Please consider watching the next video, which will be part 11. It will be about the war that will be waged by Jesus, and the 1,000-year reign in chapters 19 and 20. Thank you for watching this video.